A while back, I sent a client some logo concepts and she didn't like any of them at all. But in the end, I was able to turn it around and we went from her first saying that it wasn't what she anticipated to this was exactly what I didn't know I needed. Hey, I'm Allie. I'm a brand and website designer for women service providers who are ready to take their business to the next step and have an online presence that actually brings in clients. As much as I wish that every single client loved their logo concepts the first time, that doesn't always happen. Sometimes the road to a great brand is a winding one. So this particular client liked her current logo. She didn't feel like there was anything that wrong with it, but one of her employees and I both looked at it and knew that she could do so much better. It didn't really reflect her brilliance. It didn't fit with her vibe, and it was very generic. It looked like it had some stock photo elements of a human raising their hands to the sun. So we knew that it just really didn't fit her. She did eventually agree to go ahead and give it a whirl on trying to redesign her brand. She went ahead and filled out my in-depth brand questionnaire that really helps me dig into some questions around her target market and her message. And then using all that information, I created her brand strategy document. And it was really fun as we were going through it. At one point, she just stopped me. She said, I am buzzing. I'm so excited. I can't wait to do this, because there was something about going through that brand strategy, really digging into the details that made it evident that there were some gaps in her current brand and the business that she was running. Once we had the strategy in place, then we moved forward with creating a mood board for her and choosing colors. We had all green lights. Things were going really well. So at this point, I'm feeling pretty good. Like, let's hit send on those logo concepts and pop up in a look right. As I do with all my clients, I send her a full logo presentation. So I go through each concept, I talk about my strategy, and I dig into the different elements that went into it, the thought process behind it, and then I show it in different settings, like next to the mood board or in a mock-up. And I include a video that goes through and explains all of this. She also got a questionnaire where she could fill out her feedback. So I get her reply, and her first line was, "Thank you so much for your work on these. Unfortunately, they are not what I was anticipating." She mentioned that she wanted something more cohesive. I think this is a moment that a lot of people fear when they book a brand and website project. You might have thought yourself at one point, like, oh, what if I spend all this money on branding and website design and I get back something that I hate? But here's the thing, I didn't panic, because this kind of thing happens. And my process is built for this. To end up with a really thoughtful, strategic brand, you can't always assume that everything is going to go seamlessly, that you're going to get the perfect concepts right off the bat. Sometimes it takes a little bit of back and forth, a little bit of extra communication to really dial in on something that is the perfect fit. And that's what makes it excellent, is when there is that thoughtful process involved, when we have gone through digging through things that don't work or really thinking through why it doesn't, then we can really hit the nail on the head onto something that is perfect for you. So when I run into a situation like I did with this client, generally it falls into one of three categories. And it starts with me really diagnosing what that is. So first off, sometimes it's a strategy problem. Maybe the strategy that we set didn't really translate well in execution, or there's a gap missing there. Maybe the client got really excited about one direction, but then when it really came down to it, in the back of their mind, they were thinking more that they should lead with something else. Or maybe the strategy that we went with was more what they liked and less about their ideal client. So there could be a disconnect in that initial strategy and then what we actually came up with. Second, there's often communication problems. We all use words in certain ways and we assume meanings to those words, and sometimes that doesn't always come across to the other person. Maybe I'm not fully understanding what the client is saying. They're having a hard time expressing it. I do have things built into my process to avoid this, but it still happens from time to time because we're humans. We don't always communicate perfectly. We don't always explain things perfectly. We don't always understand things perfectly. Third, it can come down to maybe an expectations or knowledge gap. Sometimes it can be tempting as a client to veer off the strategy that we have set. You are committed to it, you understand the beauty behind it, but then when it really comes down to it, you get a little nervous. Like, it doesn't feel like maybe what you expected from the beginning. Or maybe sometimes it's just a client not fully realizing the implications of the decisions they're making. So they're asking for something that I know long-term won't serve them. And so it just takes a little time to explain and clarify and give them that heads up now before we move forward with something that's not going to work for them. And then they go back later and realize that. So in this case, it came down to mostly a miscommunication. After I got her logo feedback, I went back to the original questionnaire that she filled out to look back to see if I had missed anything or if there was something I had questions about. And one thing she had said was, I like when the word or initials are the logo. I like when a logo can include the full name but also stand alone. And so based on this, I had thought that she meant that she would prefer a word mark. That's a type of logo category. A word mark is more name focused, like it's using a font in a creative way to present the business. It's simply one option that we have in terms of logo design. And in her case, it made sense because the results that she offers in her business are less tangible. And we were trying to emphasize more of a luxury design. So a word mark could have been a good fit for her. But it turns out that's not exactly what she meant. So the next step was to get on a call and just talk through it, hash through it, hear more about what she was really thinking, what were the doubts that were going on in her minds, what were the concerns that she had. I was able to find out that by cohesive, she wasn't talking just about an overall pairing of a look, but instead that she wanted to integrate the image into the word so that the text and the icon felt integrated, not stacked or separate. That's where old-fashioned sitting down and having a conversation is really powerful. There's a lot that you can't really figure out just from reading somebody's words on a page. Sometimes you need to really dig in and be able to go back and forth and ask questions. That's something that's really important to me. I'm not just a take it or leave it designer. It's about a collaboration. We're partnering together to get to the end result that is the best for you. And sometimes that takes sitting down and having that back and forth. So once I better understood what she was looking for, then it was simple. It was more about just a simple design refinement, tweaking it a little bit to make it more in line with what she was originally looking for. So we went through a couple more iterations and aligned it with the strategy. And we actually came up with something that I was way more excited about than any of my original concepts. And when she saw the revised version, she was very excited. She said, "This wasn't what I had in mind, but I absolutely love it. It's exactly what I didn't know I wanted." In our final meeting together, she got emotional. I think that going through that full process of just unveiling her brand to her and then finally figuring out what it was really rewarding and exciting because she gets to move forward with something that feels like it fits. The logo at the end didn't just look good, it felt like her intrinsically. She's really great at what she does, and her brand finally reflected the business that she's been working so hard to build. This experience is a perfect example of why a thoughtful process really matters. Branding can feel subjective. That's why it's important that we really figure out what the strategy is, that we collaborate together, and that there's some flexibility and some give and take in the process, right? It's not just about me handing you something you have to take, and it's not just about you directing your likes and your dislikes to me. We're working together. My clients have hired me as an expert, and so I'm there to guide them through the process while still giving them something that they love and that feels like a good fit for them and for the person that they're serving. If you know that branding is something that you need to do as a business, but you've had the thought like, what if I hate it? What if I don't like it? Or I spend all this money and I don't end up with something that I like. Don't worry, I've got you. That's part of the process. It does sometimes happen where a client doesn't love the initial concepts, and that's okay because I have things in place to help make sure that we get back on track and we course correct and find something in the end that does really fit and does feel good for you. The road to a great brand can be windy, but I like to call it controlled wandering. I help you not to go off in circles or get off track, which is often the case when someone tries to DIY their brand. I can give you that expertise, that guidance to make sure you're thinking through the pitfalls of certain design choices or that you're keeping your ideal client in mind when you create something. In the end, sometimes it does take a little bit of back and forth. It does take some conversation and really digging in deep. That's part of it. So let me know in the comments if you've ever had a similar experience, whether it turned out well or it didn't. And then if you know that you're in a place where you are ready to level up your brand, that your current brand does not reflect the excellence of what you provide, then put call in the comments or find the link below to book a call with me. We can sit down and talk. It's no pressure time for me to really dig into what your vision is for your business, what you're trying to build, and then see if I'm a good fit to help you build that brand that is going to help you realize those future goals that you have for your business. Also, make sure you hit the like button and the subscribe button for a lot more branding and website content here on this channel. Hope you have a great week, and I'll see you in the next video.